Münster, a quiet Westphalian city in the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, became in 1534 the unlikely stage for one of the most radical revolutions of the Reformation, fervent, uncompromising, and apocalyptic. Its leaders claimed they were building God's kingdom on earth, a new Jerusalem that would herald the end of days. For a brief, fevered moment, they ruled with divine certainty, but within a year, that dream collapsed into starvation, slaughter, and the public display of their corpses in iron cages, where their bones would hang for centuries. This is the story of the Münster Rebellion, a tale of prophecy, power, and the peril of utopias. The early 16th century was an age of upheaval. Luther's challenge to the Catholic Church had shattered the religious unity of Europe, and new, often radical interpretations of Scripture were spreading along the trade routes and printing presses of the continent. Among the most controversial were the Anabaptists, believers who rejected infant baptism, insisting that only committed adults could truly enter God's covenant. They preached separation from worldly powers, a life of holiness, and the imminent return of Christ. To both Catholic and emerging Protestant authorities, they were dangerous heretics. To their followers, they were the righteous remnant of the true church. Münster itself was a wealthy self-governing city in the Prince-Bishopric of Münster, but political divisions ran deep between its burghers, guilds, and clergy. Into this tense atmosphere came the radical preacher Bernhard Rothmann, whose fiery sermons attacked not only Rome, but all compromise with the old order. By 1533, Rothmann's influence had primed Münster for something far more extreme than Lutheran reform. In January 1534, two outsiders arrived in the city, Jan Matthys, a Dutch baker turned prophet, and his young follower, Jan van Leiden. Both were Anabaptists, but Matthys claimed a special authority. He believed himself a new Gideon, chosen by God to prepare for the final battle against the ungodly. Their message was electrifying. Münster, they declared, was the new Jerusalem foretold in Revelation. Christ's return was imminent, and only the faithful within its walls would be saved. And in a wave of fervor, thousands were rebaptized in public ceremonies. The city council ordered the expulsion of all who refused the new faith. Wealth and property were declared communal. Private ownership was abolished. The city was to be pure, holy, and ready for Christ's kingdom. But outside Münster, alarm was growing. Franz von Waldeck, the Catholic Prince-Bishop, gathered an army of mercenaries and loyalists to retake the city. By February 1534, Münster was surrounded. Matthys dismissed the danger. Like the Old Testament heroes, he believed divine intervention would protect the faithful. On Easter Sunday, convinced that God had commanded him to strike the enemy camp, Matthys rode out with a handful of followers. The attack was suicidal. He was cut down. His body was mutilated and displayed before the walls. Leadership passed to Jan van Leiden. He was charismatic, theatrical, and ambitious. He proclaimed himself the King of New Jerusalem. He claimed visions from God and ruled as both spiritual and temporal monarch. Under van Leiden, Münster became a theocracy unlike anything in Europe. He introduced polygamy, citing Old Testament precedent, and took multiple wives himself, including the widows of Matthys. Dissent was met with swift, often lethal punishment. Public executions were staged to maintain control. Despite the siege, the city's morale remained high for a time. Van Leiden held elaborate feasts, staged processions, and dressed in royal robes of gold and crimson. He cast himself as the model of King David, defending God's chosen city against the armies of the wicked. But as the months dragged on, the blockade tightened. Food supplies dwindled, starvation set in. Disease spread through the crowded streets. Some accounts, though disputed, tell of desperate acts including cannibalism. By June 1535, the defenders were exhausted. Betrayal opened up one of the city gates to the besiegers. The Prince-Bishop's forces poured in, cutting down anyone who resisted. Van Leiden and his closest lieutenants were captured alive. Their fate was a public spectacle. In January 1536, they were executed in the marketplace of Münster by a brutal method. Tongues torn out, bodies torn with red-hot tongs, then killed with daggers. Their corpses were placed in iron cages, hung from the steeple of St. Lambert's Church. The cages still hang there today, empty but visible, a stark reminder of the rebellion's bloody end. The Münster Rebellion shocked Europe. To Catholic authorities, it proved the danger of heresy. To Protestant leaders, it was a warning that religious reform could descend into chaos and tyranny. In Anabaptist memory, the rebellion was more complex. While most of the movement rejected the violence and extremism of Münster, the suffering of its people was remembered as martyrdom, a tragic misdirection of genuine zeal. Münster had tried to become heaven on earth, but became a cautionary tale instead. For a brief moment, prophecy and politics, faith and fanaticism had fused into something the world had never seen before and has never forgotten since.